it's good news, but again, you don't take anything for granted. You keep momentum forward. People need help, and we're going to try to do what we can to get people help.
Assemblyman, thank you for coming back.
My pleasure. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. I really enjoyed our conversation last time, so I was really rearing to come back and have another conversation with you.
Hey, man, you're always more than welcome. And, there's never a dull moment in New York State government, right? So right off the top, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the governor, the allegations, the investigation? Do you have any comments about it?
Well, look, I think, again, I always appreciate the opportunity to have a candid conversation about government and politics and everything else. So the situation we find ourselves in is that I feel that it's going to continue to drip, drip, drip. Um, it's becoming more and more of a distraction every day. As people know and how government functions right now, particularly state government, we have a few weeks to pass a budget, and we're talking about a budget that is going to deal with a lot of the post-COVID trauma, right? School funding, higher ed funding, COVID relief funding, small businesses, housing, the whole thing. And we have to focus 100% on this. And I think just because it's creating such a distraction and such a flare, I think for the best, the better for the state, that the governor steps aside and allows the government to continue. And, I always put it this way where, if I were in that position, I think the governor, as well as many of my colleagues, would be asking me to do the same. So we're just simply holding particularly elected officials, whether you're the governor or a state assembly member or senator, to the same standard that, look, if these allegations continue to be more and more and more credible, I think that for the best part for the New Yorkers across the board, I think the governor needs to step down, as well as the other obviously controversies regarding nursing homes. But again, we need to function as a government, and we just need to move forward. And I think the governor should step down at this point.
Given how important this budget season is, given what is going on with COVID back home, how does this affect the operation of legislating?
We as a state are very unique in terms of how the power of the purse is delegated as far as the Constitution of the state of New York is concerned. This is a very power governor state, so which means is that the governor has a lot of sway in what the fiscal budget document final form takes, right? And it was affirmed during a hearing for the appellate division of the state of New York's court system, where it was a court case called Silver versus Pataki that affirmed that the legislature does not have the power to spend, but rather advise and consent the executive as far as the fiscal priorities of the state. That basically means the governor has a lot of power in writing the budget. Okay. The issue that we're running into, right, is that the governor is saying, and some of my colleagues are saying, and some community-based organizations are saying, and I believe right as we came online, there was a group of clergy and people of faith who said that the attorney general should be allowed to conduct her investigation. But I just sort of feel like whether or not the governor is in office wouldn't impede or intrude on the attorney general's ability to run an investigation. Now, with that being said, what is even more of a distraction is that every day, as we negotiate with the executive, he's beating back these allegations, whether true or not. And I believe women. I think these are true allegations. That it's going to divert attention to what we need to do, which is passing a budget and focusing on moving the state forward. And we have to do it. And again, no person No member, no senator, no governor, no attorney general is more important than no important than any other New Yorker. And in the service of our neighbors, our communities, I think at this point we need to move away from these distractions. We need to move forward, and we need to do the business of the people. And with this governor, as we see it, I don't see it how we can move forward in this environment with all these allegations over his head.
So Albany revoked his executive order. Explain how am I saying? I'm saying that wrong.
Executive powers.
Yes, executive, and it's emergency executive powers. You're not like just handcuffing him from doing whatever he's supposed to be doing, but the emergency powers. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So this stems from obviously the Attorney General's report on specifically the nursing home deaths that are attributed to COVID, right? This was an issue that's been going on at least since last summer. And we as a legislature, particularly Assemblymember Dick Godfrey, who's the chair of the Health Committee, as well as Senator James Skoufis and Senator Rivera, who are the Senator Skoufis is the chair of the Investigations Committee, I believe, in the Senate, as well as Senator Rivera is the chair of the Health Committee. We've been asking for numbers for months and months. The Commissioner of Health, Dr. Zucker, was delaying, and this was obviously through the orders of the governor. And they gave us those numbers. Some were redacted, some were late. And the problem with that is that the governor did not allow the legislature to involve itself in the process of, creating executive orders and doing mandates across the state that make sense and can give another eye on these issues. Now, with that being said, and what we did was we revoked the emergency powers of the governor, right? We left in place the executive orders that existed, because what we didn't want to do is just do basically revoke all the emergency power orders, which some of them we do agree with, and then leave in place at least some guidance so that local municipalities and counties can at least have a basic sense of normal operation. And then also what this bill did was that the governor has to explain that he can't issue new orders. He can modify the existing orders, but he has 30 days to explain to the legislature the necessity and the need for each of these orders and why. And that he has to brief the chairs of the relevant committees to make sure that not only are we involved in the process and this, but rather that there is a system in place to make sure that, as New Yorkers, we are given the opportunity to see what's happening, what is the rationale and the reasoning, and whether it's necessary. And I think this is the right step to do, considering the circumstances, because although we are in a much better place than we were last year, we are still under sort of a state of emergency, and that we need to make sure certain things are in place so that we don't get back to where we were over a year ago, which would be just unfathomable, to be honest.
Now let's talk about the budget. Going into last year's, the state was facing an already significant deficit.
Yep.
And then now you fast forward through a pandemic, given with everything that needs to be addressed and how contentious the budget season it already is, how is both bodies of government, the state Senate and the state Assembly, looking to approach this in a way that you can pass a budget?
Sure. So contextualize last year, the pandemic just hit, or basically around this time last year. We had a few weeks to pass a budget. We were under a state of emergency. We didn't know what was going to happen. And then you had the two issues that the governor pushed back the ability, gave people more time to file their taxes, right? A lot of people who lost their jobs, lost income, the whole thing, and the federal government did the same. So we were operating under numbers that basically projected that if we were to stay on this path, the state of New York would increase basically its deficit to about $15 billion, right? And basically from the time we passed the budget and this is on the last year was one of the most painful budgets I had to vote on. And it was a lot of it was just to make sure that there was money available to keep hospitals open so that community, like a community that I represent, has access and the ability to get help and medical services. But there were a lot of cuts. There was a lot of painful cuts, and a lot of my colleagues, some of them, I don't begrudge them for voting down on the budget. Yeah, I saw this where we don't know what's going to happen. We're in a pandemic the last medical crisis we've seen like this in this country was over 100 years ago. So most of us are not alive to sort of talk about this. It was accelerating rapidly. We honestly had little to no support from the federal government. So we had to sort of stop the bleeding with whatever we had. So we did. We survived. And there was a couple of good things that happened. One, as tax receipts started coming in, the deficit that we were anticipating wasn't as large as we thought. It went from like 15 to about 8 billion. And as the federal administration changed, the outcome of the markets were different. Our numbers and projections for the beginning of the beginning of the calendar year were projected to be a lot better than we anticipated, which is great news, right? And then on top of that, right, you mentioned how the Senate and the Assembly are looking at this. We have a lot of new energy. We have a lot of new members. A lot of new members have a much more progressive / liberal take on fiscal policy. And we were trending in that direction. So we are talking about creating a much more progressive taxation model here in the state of New York, which in theory should raise revenue fairly significantly. And then on top of that, with the change of administration, our senior senator became majority leader in the Senate, which means a lot. It means that the majority leader can drive the conversation, can get resources to their home state. The former majority leader did that in Kentucky in giant things of money. And Chuck is doing the same for New York. And the federal COVID relief package that is passed in the federal government, we're talking about billions of dollars in relief, direct payments to New Yorkers. The average family of four in my district who makes less than $150,000, usually one child under the age of 6, another child above the age of 6, is going to see close to, at the minimum in this, they're going to see $5,600 plus a increased child tax credit can conceivably see close to 10 grand in relief, which means a lot. And then on top of that, once we pass this budget, we're going to put more money into education. We're going to put more money into opportunity programs. We're going to put more money into social services. We're going to put more money into mental health, which means that we anticipate people who need help, they're going to get help. It anticipates that the economy is going to recover very quickly and honestly very violently, which is fantastic. And as consumer confidence goes up in the state and people get more and more access to the vaccines, I think it's going to be a giant sigh of relief for the state. So we just have to do this process. We have to do this well. We have to plan for not only for this year, but for the out years, 2024, 2025, 2026. And I think if we stay the course, if the budget that is passed mimics or is at least close to what our one house in the Assembly is, we're going to do a lot of good for people. And I think it's going to help the state recover in a way that we have never seen getting out of a recession. And it includes communities like ours that when we recover from economic recessions, our communities don't see it, but I'm fairly confident that we will feel it and we will see it in our communities. And that is absolutely my hope.
Well, I thought that was going to be horrifying.
I thought so too, but
okay.
And that's where it is. It's good news, but again, you don't take anything for granted. You keep momentum forward. People need help, and we're going to try to do what we can to get people help.
So with that said, do you think that this this budget time is gonna it's not gonna be as contentious as it usually is?
It always is contentious. I mean, look, you have a power governor state. We in the legislature, because there is such a turnover, we have a lot of new members with a lot of new energy, and may or may not have the experience in being in the legislature or part of an assembly majority. At least as far as I can speak to my colleagues in the assembly majority here. And a lot of them come from the advocacy world. A lot of them come from from the housing advocacy, the tenants' rights advocacy, to education equality advocacy world. So they're going to be pushing very hard. So it's going to be contentious. And then obviously, you have a governor with his own political problems, and that it is what it is. But the governor has always operated where he was very influential and very powerful in this process. So I don't think that's going to change regardless of the context. But I know that myself, many of my colleagues in the majority, many of my colleagues in the Senate, we're going to push to make sure that our communities get the money that they deserve, and that there is money particularly to help schools reopen as quickly as possible, get people vaccinated as quickly as possible, so we can reopen this economy at full tilt, and hopefully just be able to just recover in a way where this state has never seen, at least in our lifetimes.